This is a phone that split the Android smartphone community for many reasons and released at one of the craziest times in recent history, not only in the smartphone space. Today I want to talk about one of, if not the most misunderstood phones ever released and the 4 theories behind why it ended up the way it did. So let's talk about that. This is what's considered a small smartphone in 2025, and here's an actually small phone. It's of course the Google Pixel 5, a phone that many didn't gel with when it came out, but has since found a small fraternity of those wanting a truly excellent small phone. But it certainly didn't come without its controversies. The main one is that this is a mid-range smartphone with a mid-range chipset. Its Snapdragon 765G 5G processor allowed it that super fast cellular connectivity, but not much else. It sported a 90Hz 6-inch OLED panel, the same main wide camera as the Pixel 2, now with an ultra wide on top, but it never really set the world alight. By the way, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe. Cheers guys. The decision to go mid-range was odd given the last 4 phones, its direct predecessor in particular, were absolutely high-end models gunning to compete with the base model Galaxy S and the base model iPhones of the day. And there are a few theories floating about to do with why Google made the Pixel 5 its only mid-range mainline phone. The first is that this was truly made to hammer home the idea that the Pixel was all about hardware. When you force a mid-range chipset into a phone, especially a Pixel, you're kind of telling everyone that software is going to be doing all the heavy lifting in this scenario. Not just in the camera, where of course Google had already asserted itself as the king of smartphone computational photography at this point. Especially prevalent when this was the 4th mainline model to use that aging IMX363 1/2.55 inch sensor. But Google was also leaning heavily on its Pixel Experience UI, leading the UX. You had call screening, now playing, other Pixel specific features that were propping up the phone as a sort of option amongst all the other flagship options. Sort of similar to what we have today with the Pixel exclusive software features coming to the Pixel 9 series, you know, Pixel Studio, Audio Eraser, AdMe. Have we come full circle here? Is this just another Pixel 9 Pro? I don't know. The second theory is that they made the 5 mid-range because they had been putting all of their effort into what was a crazy departure in the Pixel 6 Pro, with a new focus on hardware over software. The 5 next to the 6 Pro is like a night and day difference, not only in physical design but feature set as well. The comparatively huge camera sensors, the introduction of that periscope zoom camera, way bigger batteries, Google's very own Tensor SoC for the first time. Maybe they made the 5 decidedly average in order for that new model to stand out and be an obvious upgrade over what was maybe iterative at best. Which leads us nicely into the third theory. See, first gen Tensor was not fast, story of the line's entire life to be totally honest. And whilst this might have been a bit of an out there thought at the time, there is always the possibility that the reason the Pixel 5 went mid-range was to simply make Google's debut SoC not look so bad. The Snapdragon chips at the time were absolute beasts, and so if the Pixel 5 had been something like a Snapdragon 865 5G, the Tensor G1 might not have looked like a very good upgrade at all. And so it wouldn't have convinced people to move to Google's exciting and new forward-thinking new age smartphone line. And then there's the one I want to chuck in just because it's a load of fun to talk about and interesting for your mind to stew on. See, with both the Pixel 3 XL and the 4 series, Google had received quite the backlash, controversies from the community, everyone, surrounding its high-end smartphones. The 3 XL of course had that bathtub notch, which is still the butt of the joke. Sometimes, like, it's just crazy how that thing went on. And then of course the Pixel 4's dumpster fire that was Project Solly, and the ignorant decision to put a telephoto in it instead of an ultra wide probably didn't help the Pixel line's reputation amongst non-techies, people who weren't really sure what a Pixel was, and of course enthusiasts who wanted those other features but Google didn't implement them. So it could have been a reason for Google to sort of chill out with developing a full-bore enthusiast phone just for a little bit, the 5th one just being a bit of a break in that iteration. This one is a little more speculative, I'm going to be honest, even compared with the previous ones, which could seem like out there theories. I think it's good food for thought though. It's interesting because the Pixel 5 was never a bad phone. The 765 5G chipset was more than good enough for your average person when it came out, though the decision to not include a flagship chip shows itself more as the device ages. This is actually one of the main justifications behind the iPhone 16e and the SE line up to that point. Sure, they might have not had the highest end features off rip, not even a high refresh rate display in 2025 for your $600, and of course the decision to not include MagSafe is a crazy one, but their inclusion of truly high-end internal hardware components keeps them fresher for longer. Of course this can be counteracted by the fact that batteries fail all over the place and so on, but you do get the idea. Compared to phones these days, my word is the Pixel 5 just a breath of fresh air. High-end feeling it is not, but instead offers a thin, super lightweight and low-profile design that honestly I wish other phone companies made into a phone these days, maybe with a decent chip and a 120Hz panel. And the sort of sage colour as well looks fantastic. It's held up really nicely. This has been well looked after, actually provided by my good friend Damien Wild, who used and abused this for an awfully long time. It's in remarkable condition considering that idiot was using it. Honestly, the idea of this phone is pretty easy to get on board with. Make the device cheaper than the competition with lower end hardware, make up for it in its great software. Make it interesting and unique in its form factor and keep it accessible to as many people as possible. It makes a lot of sense. It's just that in the real world, already suboptimal chips slow down way faster than flagship ones. I'm not saying that that alone makes this unusable, by the way. There are going to be people out there who still run a Pixel 5 purely for its form factor, its design. They'll be using it as their primary device, so do let me know in the comments if that's you. I want to hear from you. There's a lot to like here. The cameras are still good. Honestly, you'd be very hard pressed to take a bad photo in decent daylight with the main camera on the back of this phone. The sensor might be ancient, sure, but Google's computational photography is still lifting this heavily half a decade down the line. It really is impressive, I can't lie. The form factor is fantastic, the battery life really isn't that bad, and I guess this is where reviews can get a little tricky to make. What might work out great for me could be completely unusable for you, and vice versa. There are many prospective buyers just looking for something very cheap so that they can do their doom scrolling, listen to Spotify, and show directions in their car. They might be content with carrying around a battery bank just to save a few quid, or alleviate those battery drain problems. Might not be an issue to them, but to other people that seems kinda crazy. The Pixel 5 is almost not even looked at as a fantastic product, but more of a catalyst for conversation around the viability and use cases of different smartphones and why one person's analysis or point of view is rarely the be-all end-all. Almost 5 years down the road, Google's Pixel 5 stands as an absolute oddity in not only the Pixel smartphone lineup, but the landscape as a whole. It made seemingly no sense to a lot of people, and all we can do is theorise about why the company decided to go down this route. The Pixel 5 is perhaps the most misunderstood smartphone I've come to use. It's fun to try and work out why Google decided to make this thing mid-range, and who knows, maybe one day we'll find out the truth.